Welcome to She's a Full-On Monet, a digital lifestyle magazine for women. Every week, our editor-in-chief, Kelly Castillo, along with Megan Block and special guests, participate in a deep dive discussion about recent articles and topics we have covered. We invite you to become part of our community where everyone's welcome. You can totally sit with us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to She's a Full-On Monet. I am your host, Kelly, and I have with me, as always, Megan.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
And how are things going, Megan? How are you? I'm still just now sitting down to the first time I've sat at my desk today. It's been crazy, so right? I'm taking a breath.
I know, same. I put a blazer over what I've been wearing since 7 when I dropped off my kids this morning to appear more businesslike, and all I've had today is a smoothie. So I've been better, but I'm getting by. So it's all good. It's like really windy today.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't make a difference in my life. I'm just not a fan of it. And so I'm just like, I barely cared about, why bother? So anyway, yeah. But I'm excited about today's topic. I'm excited. I'm kind of a fan of it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think if you have any interest in history or politics or any of that kind of stuff, or even if just a feminist, this is a good topic for you. Mm-hmm. So today we are going to talk about the new quarters that just got rolled out this last month in January. I had to think about that.
Rolled out.
I have not actually gotten my hands on one yet.
No, me neither, but I want to. You can buy them on like eBay, like sets of them for like 11. I mean, more than 4 or 5 quarters worth, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I remember my grandmother used to buy me like the Franklin Mint and stuff. They had the quarters when they came out with the state quarters, and she had the whole set of 50 in like their little slots that told about why it had the stuff on it that it had and all that. I think having these quarters, if you buy them in a set like that for your daughters or granddaughters, is such a cool gift and something they'll keep, just because it's a piece of history.
Exactly. I have 2 daughters, and that was the first thing I thought of was like, wow, it would have been cool if I saw this when I was a kid, because I was one of those kids that liked the state quarters. Like I was really into collecting all of them. Like my brother and I were a little competitive about getting all of them. And so these would have just been so cool. I just find the artwork on these coins so beautiful, especially the ones that they made of the States, I thought were so unique. And so, I mean, if you have daughters, I mean, that's just a really cool piece of history to give them, because it's like the first of its kind,
I think I completely agree. I might do that. My partner's granddaughter turns 10 next month. Her birthday is exactly 1 month after Emma's.
My daughter's 10th birthday is tomorrow. I'm just pretending it's not existing. That's how I'm handling that.
Exactly. Her birthday is March 3rd. That's how I always remember when Emma's birthday, because they're 1 month apart. I remember when you guys were pregnant at the same time. So I might do that for her, because I think it's just kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, kids don't like super get it at the time. And then to have to explain, like, you can't spend it, you have to say, like, keep them as keepsakes. But man, it's such a big deal. I don't know why. I just feel like it's such like, thank goodness, and finally.
I think it's cool just to start the conversation about why they're so significant and just I don't think most kids understand, even my own daughters who are, 20 and almost 24, they don't really understand that things have changed so much in my lifetime, as far as like women being able to have their own checking account and being able to buy a house on their own. I mean, these are new things. And all the women that are now, in government, and so many countries now have female leaders. And I think it's just really cool. And not something maybe they're educated about in history class as much. I don't know.
Yeah. Or depending on the kid's age, they may see it as the norm. They may have grown up around this type of situation. I remember when our vice president became our vice president, and I was just so excited about that. And my girls were excited too, but they've seen strong female leaders in various areas of the world, like, strong female leaders, like singers that, make their way through history. And so like, they know of a strong female role but this is a really big deal, you know? And so this is like, I didn't grow up with that. This isn't something
Yeah.
that I'm about. So,
And if it's not your like norm, then you won't notice the difference unless somebody talks to you about it. Like if you go back and watch an old Disney movie like Sleeping Beauty, and then watch a new Disney movie, and you see the difference in how they portrayed the female characters, where like literally sleeping and just waiting for some man to come rescue them, versus like taking charge and rescuing themselves. I'm like, Tangled, she fully rescued herself. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just been such a shift.
There's been a really big shift. Even like, I mean, I'm a big Disney nerd, but like the last Frozen movie that they had, Kristoff's character had a really big line when Anna was doing something, and he just said, he came up with his horse and he said, "I'm here. What do you need?" It wasn't like, "I'm here to save you," or "I'm here to fix everything." It was like, "I'm here. What do you need? Like, you have this. What can I do to help?" And it was like, as a female, that moment, seeing the progression of the Disney movies happen the way they are, was such an empowering moment. And yes, I mean, it was co-written by a female, and a strong female, person. I think that had a lot to do with it. But I feel like we're getting more and more and more, we're getting closer and closer to where ideally we'd like to be in this whole situation, and I feel like we're moving and happily quicker than I kind of expected it. I feel like it was like a spark that lit some fire that just kind of, we're like, well, why are there not women on the coins? And somebody was like, I don't know, so I just think that it's great. I feel like it was not a slow snowball. It was more of a faster spark than I was expecting. And I love it. I'm so happy about it.
I'm so happy about it too. Yeah. So in case you haven't caught on to what we're talking about, because I don't think we've fully explained.
I think we kind of did, but we never fully title it.
Yeah. So back in January, the U.S. Mint rolled out, we're still going with that, a set of new quarters. I think there's 5 of them. And they have, they have the traditional George Washington on the front. They've flipped it, I think, so he's facing a different direction. But the back of them have women on them. So I will be a tails person in all coin tosses from now on, just in case anyone was wondering.
Team tails, in case anyone wants to know.
always. But I think it's just a cool thing. I mean, a lot of people, there's been a bit of a backlash about it because, we still don't have females represented on paper money in the US. And so there's been like, wow, we got coins, which is really like nobody uses them anymore unless you're going to the laundromat or something. And
am I just happy we got invited to the party? I don't know. I feel like we'll get there. I don't think that it stops at the coin. I think they have a point. But do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we'll get there.
I feel like we're definitely getting there, and it's a big step. Do you need to get the doorbell? Is that your doorbell?
Is that mine? Can we cut this really quick? I think I just need to tell a neighbor kid to go away. 1 second. There's one kid that I swear, I don't know how she does her homework so fast. It's like, they just got out of school. How are you already free to go play? I thought this was homework time. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. We'll just cut that out.
Just edit that part out.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, okay. So some people are a little bit upset. There's been some talk online about how, women are on the lowest form of currency. I mean, true, we're not on the penny. Thankfully, we got the quarter.
It could be worse, guys.
Yeah, it could be worse. And I mean, they did do a Susan B. Anthony dollar, which I think is still in circulation. So we have been on a dollar, but just not paper money. So I think that will be the next, big hurdle, is getting a female on paper money. As many people know, there was a huge push to replace Andrew Jackson, who, historically is garbage, with Harriet Tubman on
garbage. Yes.
On the $20 bill. And that did not happen. The last administration kind of put that on ice. So I don't know if that will be happening, but I think it would be cool. Obviously, Harriet Tubman is someone who is such like an important historical figure for the United States. And it's part of our history that people, don't always want to shine a light on, because there's a lot of ugliness.
I did a full-blown Harriet Tubman report in like the 4th grade, where I had to dress like her and I had to like write a report and everything. And like, I still remember she was incredible, like girl was a boss, she got it done. And she got it done in a very innovative way. So I think it's fantastic that we're in the talks about it. I mean, call me when like the Apple from Apple Pay has been replaced with a woman, because by the time we get on paper, people will be complaining like nobody uses paper money, everything is like digital, or like with your card, or like, you know what I mean, or with your Apple Watch, you're just like swipe. I do
want to say that, because everything is now by chip card or Apple Pay, like you say, and you can order a credit card with literally anything you want on it. You can put your own face on it. You could put a historical female figure that really speaks to you. You want to put Harriet Tubman on your Visa card? You absolutely can.
Yes. Yeah. You can customize your currency at the moment. And probably the most current, like the most utilized form of currency I don't carry cash around very much. And if I do, it gets taken by my kids at like an arcade. So, but I love the fact that somebody thought to change it up for a minute. I'm not going to complain about like, oh, nobody uses coins, like, okay, well, nobody uses dollars anyway either. But, I'm just happy that this is a thing. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, this is a huge step in the right direction for sure. Hopefully, that bill or act or whatever they were doing to replace Andrew Jackson with Harriet Tubman will happen, because I think that would be really cool.
Harriet Tubman's awesome. Meryl Streep is a great second choice, if that's an awesome one. If we could put Meryl on some currency, I'd really appreciate that. Anyone want to fight me on that? Come on.
Only if she's got the haircut from Devil Wears Prada.
Yes.
That's the iconic Meryl Streep. No.
She is the greatest. So, I mean, Harriet Tubman, yes. I'm not putting one and one to like them together on the same time.
They are not.
Saying, Meryl is a great option for us.
Let's be clear about that.
Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews is an American icon. Well, she's not even American. She's a British icon, but she's an icon.
She resides here, so we keep her.
We want to make sure we are very clear with everyone. We were not just comparing Meryl Streep to Harriet Tubman.
No, but I'm just saying the current guys
categories.
Current guys on the bills are not cutting it for me. So if we're going to replace one, if there's an option for another, Meryl would be a great one. But Harriet Tubman, we should stick with that one as like the first of many, hopefully, or a few. We don't have to replace all the men, but a few. Switch it up.
Andrew Jackson. It was like personally responsible for a lot of what happened to the Native Americans in this country in the late 1800s, mid 1800s, and the removal of them from their lands. And I mean, I can only imagine how that feels to be have that spit out the ATM machine at you.
All this, 20s too, especially.
Yeah, if you're Native American, and that doesn't feel good. So let's toss him. Let's replace him.
I know we normally wait to talk about the Facebook group until the end, but I would really love it if, like, in the Facebook group, if anyone's interested, what would your ideal currency people be? Like, it could be, when you choose, like, who would you invite to the table for dinner, and it's like a whole hodgepodge of different types of people. I mean, Meryl Streep is a great option, guys. I'd love to know what everybody else thinks that they would want to put. Would it be more historical figures, or would it be people that mean to you? So we'd be like, it's my grandmother. I put my grandmother on there.
I would be very curious. I would be very curious to see who people feel strongly about that is worthy of currency.
Yeah, there's so many incredible women who have done so many amazing things in history. And like, we'll go through, I'm sure, in this podcast, who they chose on the coins. But they didn't have to stop at those 5. There's so many incredible women in history that it's like, if you're going to replace the currency, who would your personal choices be, So.
Yeah, I would be so curious to hear that, because I think everybody has, one historical female figure that kind of just speaks to them and has always been their favorite. That's why they have all those children's books that are about like historical figures. They had them even when I was young. And I remember my grandmother had a whole shelf on her bookcase of those. And everyone had their favorite, like their one that they wanted to read over and over again. So I think I would be really interested to hear who people vote for.
Right. Do you know how my kids actually retain history right now? There's a show on Netflix called the Who Was Show, and it's like almost like an all that SNL type style skit show that talks. They pick two people in history, like Joan of Arc and Benjamin Franklin, and they go through like actual facts, but they do it in fun skits that kids will actually retain the information. It's so brilliantly done that it's like, now I bring this up because I feel like the people on the coins, a lot of young kids or young adults may not know exactly who they are, but there are outlets out there that are currently trying to get more history, make it cool, I guess, to know about people in history, historic people in history. So, I mean, I might show her a coin of Maya Angelou, for example, and I might expect her not to know, but there are outlets out there that kids are like, oh, I know Maya Angelou, or, so I think it's great that it's still relevant information that our kids are still talking about and learning, and it might be cool for them to still collect. I don't know if coin collecting is still cool for people, but it was when I was a kid.
Yeah, no, I think when things like this come out, it is. I mean, even if you weren't buying the set for your child or grandchild, I think it would be cool for you guys to kind of do a treasure hunt and try to collect all 5 just organically by getting change and remembering every time you get change from someone to check the quarters and see what you got. I mean, that's pretty cool. I think that would be fun. If I was a kid, I would be jazzed about that. Since it's 5, when it was the States, it was 50. And it was like, I'm never going to get this.
I still did it organically though. I never bought one. I never bought it. I was like, oh, I have 15 Montanas. You can have this one back, Dad. It's fine. But there was, I never finished it. I don't know. I think I got like a full 12 and I felt good. And then I moved on to something else, but yeah.
Then it was probably time for McDonald's to play Monopoly again. And we all just lost focus.
Yeah. On to something new, but yeah, I think it's a great start and hopefully something they'll continue and maybe just switch out and change different women in history. Like maybe another set, how they change them out. Maybe there'll be like another collector's set of different.
Yeah, women. I don't see why not. I mean, if you look at what the Postal Service does, how they go through stamps and they have, specific events in history that they celebrate, or specific people that they celebrate. And it can even be, I don't want to say celebrities, but like significant people in all different industries, not just in politics and not just,
like sports.
Right. They do sports. If there's a charitable organization that they partner with, they'll do something like, I think there was one right now that's like otters or something. So I think that's really cool how they're always having something new, but it's recognizable. It's a stamp, it's like a letter stamp from the way that it looks. Just like a quarter with George Washington always on the front by law, then that it's a quarter. And they can change up the back and just celebrate different things at different times. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's very expensive to print out new currency, but
I'm sure that's why we haven't gotten like a whole hodgepodge of weird ones, like a Halloween quarter and stuff like that. It's probably not easy to do and to circulate everywhere. But I mean, maybe, I don't know how long it takes, but a little while down the road, maybe pick 5 new women. Because like I said, we've discussed, there's so many just historical women that have made serious movements towards the fact that we could have this podcast conversation today, like the fact that this is even a thing is because of these women,
right. And that's part of why, I mean, I understand what people are saying by saying, this is fine, but like, why can't we have paper currency with women on it? And I understand that. And I think we will get there. I think we should acknowledge the steps that we're taking and acknowledge progress that's being made. And I like that they're saying that, because it means that we're just going to continue to push.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to be complacent and say, oh, thank you. This is good enough. We're going to continue to, we say, this is amazing. We're going to celebrate this. And then we're going to keep pushing.
Exactly. No, that's
for
true.
Like equal representation.
Yeah. But give it a good light while it's being premiered,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I think it's really exciting. And I think, if you've been reading any of the news stories about it, it is kind of a mixed bag, but, it's been the Susan B. Anthony dollar, I think, was the last time that a woman was on US currency. Before that, it was like a century ago. It's crazy. It hasn't happened very often, where it might be the fact that like our political figures, our presidents have all been men. When you look at currency in other countries, it's very common to see women on currency, but that's a lot of monarchy stuff. And, a lot of other countries have female leaders currently and in the past. we're really behind on this and really behind on this. And so I don't think it's as strange for them to see women on their paper money. That seems like a very common thing in other countries, and it just hasn't happened for us.
Mm-hmm. We're our own situation where it's like we took us slower to get to certain parts than others, but yeah. No, I think it's great.
If we're a question that everyone asks is, how did they come up with the 5 women for these coins? I mean, I don't remember voting for it. Nobody asked me what I thought.
I do remember voting for like what like M&M color should be added to the back. Like I was included in that vote years ago but I did not get to vote on this. And if I did, I would have been so about it because like I said, I was a coin collector and I love the whole message. So anyway, I'm intrigued by how. Do tell.
The U.S. Mint consulted with the Smithsonian Institute. They actually have an American Women's History Initiative. So the Smithsonian does, I mean, the most amazing things, right? We all know the Smithsonian. If you have a Smithsonian, if you haven't actually been to the Smithsonian Museum, you know it from all the things that they do. You know it from like the TV show Bones. Everybody knows the Smithsonian, but they do have an American Women's History Initiative. And I think that's really cool. The Congressional Bipartisan Women's Caucus and the National Women's History Museum all contributed submissions for women to be considered for the 5 coins. It was an online submission portal. They received over 11,000 recommendations. So Megan, when you say there's a lot, you're absolutely right. They had 11,000 recommendations. And the public was also invited to put in recommendations. I don't know how highly publicized that was because I don't remember seeing anything about it. And then the Treasury Secretary, who I think her name is Janet, Secretary Yellen. She's the one who made the, Janet Yellen. She's the one who made the final determinations. So she selected these 5 women out of those 11,000 submissions. I would not want her job. And and she announced them last June. So they came out in January, but they were announced in June. I don't remember hearing anything about it back in June. I don't think people were really talking about it that much. Maybe we had to have it in our hands and see what it looked like to make a fuss. But do you remember hearing about it?
No, like I'm just thinking their marketing department's terrible. It's like,
really
how
bad.
did we not know? How did I not know? Because I'm not tuned into all the news, but I mean, I feel like that's a basic enough news situation to where even like ABC 7, like your local news stations like Instagram would talk about it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. I read the Apple News headlines every day, and if it's anything remotely interesting, I click through and read the article. As long as it's not, I don't have to pay for it. And I don't remember hearing anything about it. And I feel like I pretty much keep up with news, but go figure. But okay, so Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, said that each time we redesign our current, I love this quote, so I'm going to tell you guys. Each time we redesign our currency, we have the chance to say something about our country, what we value, and how we've progressed as a society. So I think that's kind of a cool thing to say. And I think our currency, our money, especially our paper money, really does represent our country. I mean, I know when I travel, one of the things I think is really cool and fun is to look at the money from the country I'm traveling to. And I ask questions. I'll ask locals, like, who is this person on that? And I might sound ignorant, but I want to know. I mean, the only way to cure ignorance is by asking questions. So if I don't recognize, obviously, if I'm in England or something, I usually know who those people are. But sometimes we travel quite a bit and lots of, very obscure places sometimes. So when I see people on their currency, I always want to ask for the background. I think it's interesting. So hopefully, this helps people, even Americans who may not be as familiar with all 5 of these women, to, just go on Google and look up this person and see who this is and read about it and be interested. And
that's what I love the most about the whole situation I mean, there's 1 or 2 that for sure you've heard about, you've heard their names, but then there's some that you don't know about. And it almost makes you want to go, well, who is this person and why was this person so important in history that they got a coin, for them? And it makes you go look it up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there have been, obviously, if there was 11,000 submissions, there have been so many notable women in our history. and we only have honored 5. So we have a lot more we could do. And
I want to see this list.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into it. The first one I'm going to talk about, her name is May Wong. And now this is not someone I was familiar with, so I really had to look her up. She was the first Chinese American film star in Hollywood. So she is the only quote unquote celebrity on the list. She's the only celebrity who made the cut. So she was the first Chinese American film star in Hollywood, and her family immigrated, and she started out as a silent movie star, like way, way back in the day. And she had like the flapper haircut and the whole thing with the pin curls. Oh my gosh. I looked up a bunch of photos of her. She was gorgeous. But she was notable because, she was unheard of at the time to have a real leading lady who was Chinese American or Asian American at all. That was really groundbreaking at the time. So I think it's cool that they included her. And it was one that I had to look up, which surprised me. Yeah, and she's also the first Asian American on U.S. currency in ever in history.
Wow, how cool is that?
Yeah, I mean that legacy is pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
So Anna May Wong, she's the first one. Next we have Dr. Sally Ride, which I was very familiar with. Dr. Sally Ride, probably because of my age. I was in elementary school and stuff when she was really active. So Sally was obviously most well known as an astronaut. She was the first American woman in space and only the 3rd woman in space ever. So that was, it was a really big deal when I was growing up. Most like teachers of science and stuff, especially if they were female teachers, would have a picture of Sally Ride in their classroom. So that I definitely remember her. She was an author. She wrote a bunch of books. She was a physicist, astronaut, and educator. And although she was in a traditional marriage in the beginning of her life, towards the end of, after she passed, in her memoirs and stuff, it came out that she actually lived with a woman and she was a lesbian, but she was not open about it in her lifetime, probably because of the time period which she lived. But I think it's very cool that we do have some LGBTQ representation in these coins, because that is another big kind of groundbreaking thing. And so I think that's pretty cool. And then next we have Maya Angelou. We all know, we all love the poet of our hearts, right? Such a celebrated writer, also a huge civil rights activist and social activist. I mean, I think she's probably the most well-known of the 5 people on this list. She's also the only Black woman that is included in the 5. But I think that she was such a, I grew up reading her poetry and studying her in school and stuff. And I think she lived such a long and celebrated life. And she was so openly embraced by the American people for her words. That she just had a way of saying things that really seemed to touch people and make them think. And I think it's very cool that a poet would also be included here. This list is not politicians. It is not one specific category, scientists, or we have so far we have an actress, a Hollywood actress, we have a poet, an author, and we have an astronaut. Those are so varied, right?
It's really cool. This was I feel like the more we dive into each one of them and how unique and groundbreaking they were, it's such a great, I'm assuming starter 5 coins. You know what I mean? Like, out of 11,000, it'd be impossible to choose 5, but the 5 they chose, I think, is fantastic.
Yes, I agree. So next on the list, we have Wilma Mankiller, and she was the first female principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. She was also a huge activist for Native American rights and a social worker. So she really did a lot to advance not just the Cherokee Nation, but the Native American community as a whole, and bring awareness to some of the issues that they continue to struggle with to this day. And having such a strong female leader in a Native American nation like that, I can only imagine, how revered I mean, historically, she will be forever, because that's a huge position to have, not in general, not even just for a woman.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really cool that they included a Native American on this list, because one of the huge things that I've noticed in even the last couple of years, where we've come so far with representation, inclusion, diversity, in what we call, the BPIOC, or including the Asian American, just representation and inclusivity across the board, whether we're talking about marketing, we're talking about corporate boards, we're talking about media, I mean, everything. I tend to see the Native American population being a little bit left out of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Unless, we're talking about some niche media thing. Otherwise, a lot of people are all about, it's Asian.
Yeah. I just feel like it might be just like the least heard or the least loud oppression, because it's certainly there. It's just there's so much going on that I feel like they get lost in the shuffle, and that's not fair. So I just think that this is fantastic,
Yeah, I do too. I'm really happy that they included a Native American woman in this 5, because I think we need to, if we're talking about inclusion, it means inclusion
of everyone. You can't just stop with, including certain communities is still a great step forward, but you got to try your absolute best to include all communities, especially communities who get continually ignored.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And they're even of the marginalized community, they're very marginalized even within the marginalized communities. So I think it's really important that they included her. And then we have the last one. These are in no particular order. We have Nina Otero-Warren. So Nina, it was not her given name. I think her given name was Maria, but she went by Nina. And she was a suffragette. She was a leader in New Mexico. She ran for Congress and the U.S. House of Representatives, I believe. And she was the first female superintendent of Santa Fe Public Schools. She was a politician, and she was a Hispanic woman. Her parents, I know at least one of her parents was an immigrant to New Mexico from Spain. I think there was looped through some other places, but I think it was her father's family was Spanish, and I believe her mother's family was too. I know she's Hispanic, but I wasn't sure 100% of the ethnic background there, but she was very important in politics within New Mexico, but also overall. I mean, what she did for the women's right to vote, and running for public office at the time that she was alive was a really big deal. I mean, she ran for public office before women even had the right to vote for her, which is kind of crazy. But
talk about ambitious.
Yeah. And obviously very big on education, being the superintendent of the public school system in Santa Fe. So I think it's cool that they included a Hispanic woman as well, and someone who's so, revered and well respected, not just in New Mexico and in the Santa Fe community, but in America in general. So they really picked from a wide variety of categories, whether they're artists, whether they're politicians, whether they're scientists. I mean, very cool what they did. I think so. Yeah, I think I can only imagine the weight of the responsibility that Secretary Treasury Yellen must have felt in making those choices, because it was her sole responsibility, and knowing how everyone was going to nitpick it and criticize and say, why not this person? Why that person? I mean, she only had 5 choices.
She did a very good job of inclusion from every possible background. So I think that's fantastic. If you can only pick 5, I mean, it's good to pick one from possibly each community to be represented. So that's great, and I'm sure it was like the hardest decision ever to dwindle it down. I'm sure it was like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of like trying to really figure it out. Did you tally up all the votes and then decide what one was the most popular? I have no clue. I just don't want to be that person.
No,
but she did fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want that responsibility, but I think she did a really good job. And yeah, I think the diversity here and just the representation is awesome. I'm really happy to see that. And I think it'll spark, hopefully, a lot of really cool conversations within families and within, you know, communities. And just, I mean, you're holding your change in your hand. It's like right there to talk about.
And it's new, it's different. Most people by now are used to, my kids are used to seeing, you know, different states on the quarters. That's like the norm for them even.
Right.
And I remember when that was like so cool to have one. So, I mean, it's just something different. You have it in your hand and it's there. It's like going to be shiny and beautiful because it's new. Might as well have that time to spark a conversation. And it's 5 really important individuals that if you just know, like, listen to this podcast and you hear a little bit about them, you know, when your daughter asks you or somebody asks you about them, you can share a little piece of information that they might not have known, because these are not super well-known people. These are not the Meryl Streep situation what I was talking about. You know what I mean? Like that last one, I've never heard of her, but I so respect and admire her, you know? So a lesson learned. It's a little tiny little history lesson within your hand when you're holding coins.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, I can just picture that happening right now where, you know, you get change back from someone and you see this quarter that looks brand new and shiny and you're looking, wow, that's brand new. And you look at the back and you think, who is this? And you ask the person next to you, who is this person? And they're like, I don't know either. Look at it. Let's Google it.
Just so you know.
Yeah, I do that all the time. When I don't know something, I immediately go and look it up. I am very curious by nature. And that for me I'll Google something and I'll look into it a little bit and see if it's something I have an interest in. And then I'll, you know,
move on.
Really like, wow, that's a really cool thing. Then maybe I'll order like a biography of that person or a book about it. Or if they have a movie, I'll go watch the movie. And I always love to learn more about things.
It sparks that interest of learning. And those, like we all know, those new quarters, they're like bright, shiny, especially when you get it all, but like you can't help but notice it, you know?
Yeah.
So just two little pieces of information of each person. And, you know, for me, it's a big responsibility to have 2 daughters. You have 2 daughters. I want to do it right. I don't, you know, and this is an opportunity to do it right, you know? So if I just know a little bit about it, it'll convince them that I know a lot more than I do. And they're going to be like, oh, she's cool. Like my mom knows about, you know, Sally Ride. Who's Sally Ride? Because they didn't grow up in the time frame I did, you know, it wasn't current news. So
yeah. And I think because so many different backgrounds are represented in the choices that she made, that you can really show, you know, your children and grandchildren all the things that are possible for them, because these women lived a long time ago and look at what they achieved, and they came from all different backgrounds, and look at how far they come, and now they're on the quarter. I mean, that's just really cool. So I think that's a great conversation to have, not just about, you know, feminism and representation of women, but also in all the different accolades and achievements that each one of these women has in their respective fields, and how you can literally do anything. Like there is no ceiling. You can be anything, you can do anything. You can be an astronaut, you can be a famous poet, like whatever, you know. I think that's a great thing for girls to see, to just not limit yourself, dream big, like, and you can be on the quarter.
Yeah, I mean, in all areas, a superintendent, I mean, all areas of work get highlighted. I think too often we get seen, like, unless you're like a celebrity or a singer or a movie star, you're never going to get recognized on a very high level. These people were doing like relatively not, I'm an astronaut is not a relatively normal thing, but I'm just saying, like, they were doing big movements in not like a huge billboard sort of way, and they still got on a quarter. Okay, so
yeah, I think that's what's really cool. Move. Only one of these was what I would consider a traditional celebrity. I mean, Maya Angelou, obviously celebrity, but she was a poet. That's different than being a movie star. So only one of these was like a Hollywood celebrity.
They didn't choose Oprah Winfrey, you know?
There's no Kardashian, no hate, but there's no Kardashians on this list.
Again, there's 11,000 great options, but the 5 that they made were not in fields where we glorify as a society in the United States. We glorify and make these people almost like royalty, you know? So you would expect somebody like an Oprah Winfrey to be on the coin, and it would totally be normal and fine and welcome. But you know what I mean?
If you look at, like, even just the 2 people that she chose, Wilma Mankiller and Nina Otero-Warren, they worked in their communities. Like,
that's what I mean.
they really did things for their respective communities, and they weren't, on Instagram. They were on YouTube.
Just focus on making a positive difference in your world, and watch yourself get on a quarter. Don't be the most popular, but make a positive impact on the world and see what happens after that. You know what I mean? That's really what they're trying to get at, is let's glorify the right things. Not like those people aren't making positive impacts. I'm sure they are, but these people didn't go for like I want to be known across the universe. You know what I mean? Like, this is fantastic. I think her choices were so solid.
Yeah. I mean, when you do great things just for the sake of doing great things and helping people, like, the karma for that is so amazing, and everything always comes back tenfold. In my experience, at least, like if you do things hoping to get recognition for them, generally it doesn't go as well, at least from what I've seen in my lifetime. So these are all women who did amazing things just for the sake of doing the amazing thing, and not to try to get famous and not to try to get recognition. So she made very good choices. I'm very happy with her. Mm-hmm. Hopefully she's getting a lot of positive feedback and no mean comments or, second guessing, because it's rough out there to be someone in charge of making those kinds of decisions.
Maybe that's why she was so hush hush. Maybe that's why we didn't get the phone call, Kelly.
Maybe she didn't want to hear it.
She just didn't want to hear it. She's like, I got so many opinions already. I don't need this like marketed on Instagram. Okay. Like, if we need to ask the public, it's going to be like your uncle and your uncle. It's like, that's it. Cause I've had it to hear with people's opinions on who they think is the most important person on, yeah, like, I feel like it's a lot of pressure. She did great. I wouldn't have, my picks would have been so obvious that it's like, it's like, all of the history she knows about is found on like TMZ. Congratulations. Like, it would have been so surface level, no depth to it at all. So,
but can you imagine like how many cool women she learned about through those 11,000 submissions? She could probably write a who's who book of like cool badass bitches. Like,
I want to see how many people like, I'd like to nominate my best friend Tiffany because she's amazing, or like, I'd like to nominate my great grandma. Like, she's just like, no, like how many great, but also like how many just total bullshit she had to just read through. Like,
right, because all women are amazing, all women are beautiful, all women are awesome. But
great entrepreneurs, but how many Kardashian requests went through her inbox? Do you know what I mean? Like, no.
Okay. And let's just talk about for a second. Like, I have mad respect for Kris Jenner and how she hustles and gets her kids.
She gets it done.
Billions of dollars worth of business, and oh my God, like, she's amazing manager. Mm-hmm. The fact that she could not swing getting one of her kids on the quarter, Kris, you got to up your game, girl. Where do we not have a Kylie quarter?
I was going to say, which one? Who would you pick? Who would go on it?
I think it has to be Kylie, right? She was like one of the youngest billionaires.
Kim? Oh,
man. I don't know.
There's such a superiority complex with those two that they're always fighting over who's really like
the most.
We're going off on a tangent, but for real though, it's like, I just want to know who would you put on your quarters? No judgment. Yeah, no judgment at all. You don't even have to all of them now, but if you got a few,
I encourage everyone to go to Facebook, look up She's a Full-On Monet, and you'll see our page there. Attached to it is our discussion board. Please tell me who you would put on the quarter, and also if you had to choose which Kardashian is quarter worthy, we would also like to know that.
And if you don't pick Jennifer Lawrence as one of your top 5, you're wrong. Because she is a gem, and she needs to be on a coin. She is the people's person. I'm not kidding. She's fantastic. But I'm gonna go and I'm gonna list my 5. And even if it's just us, it's cool. I just find it so interesting because this woman had to really put history into play, like there's no pressure on us. No one's coming and asking me for the set 2, so I can put anybody I want. So that's what I'm gonna do. And Jennifer Lawrence will be on there. Anyway,
that's funny. Yeah. So we would really love to hear all of your recommendations, who you would have chosen, if you thought that they chose right or not. We'd love to know why. So yeah, head over to Facebook.
Do you think she played it like, I hate to say this, but do you think she like played it safe by choosing somebody to be represented from each each community, you know, because like when you don't highlight something, like do you think she played it, do you think she chose the right people, or do you think she played it safe?
I think probably both. I think it was very deliberate that she chose, you know, someone from every category that she, but at the same time, if she hadn't, and she had just chose who she thought was most worthy of recognition, it's not also taking into account all of the circumstances that women from other backgrounds have to face, you know. I think she did the right thing.
We are a country of all different types of people, and it's hard to choose 5 to represent, you know, the first set of like our country. So it's such a hard choice that you have to play it safe. But it's like even if for playing it safe circumstances, she still picks solid choices.
Yeah,
you know,
each one of them solid
have backgrounds to back up her decision, that it wasn't just based on pleasing a community, I don't think, you know. But it was still a safe and good choice.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I think wasn't there another coin that had, I know we had Susan B. Anthony on a dollar coin, but I think we had was it Sacagawea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
it was a dollar also, right?
Yeah. Okay. Because I was given them and I was told immediately not to spend it. And when I was given them at that point, I was like, that could buy me like so many good things at recess. I'm telling you, at the snack bar. Like, but my mom was like, it's a Sacagawea dollar. Don't you dare spend that. It's going to be worth so much one day. So no, it was in my head. Yeah, you were right.
Okay. I had a vague memory of that also. But
so both of them, were they both worth the same? Wasn't one worth like, what's worth 50 cents? Isn't one worth like a $50? I don't know. But I do know there's a Susan B. Anthony and a Sacagawea.
There's a Susan B. Anthony dollar that's been around forever, but then the golden dollar, that's what it was. It's still worth $1, but it was golden in color. I'm trying to look it up now because I'm going to go crazy. Do you do that? Do you have to immediately know?
Immediately.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. They have a bunch of, it was the Sacagawea golden dollar coin. It was issued between 2019, I almost said 2000, between 2000 and 2008.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Totally.
Well,
okay. But I mean, those weren't as circulated as, this is a bigger deal because these are quarters. People, you see quarters like so much more than you would see. I don't remember the last time I saw one of the coin dollar situations. Just
so I used to go through here in Southern California. We have toll roads that you have to pay to drive on because California. And when they first started, they would take cash. Now they read your license plate and auto debit your credit card. But I would go through with cash. And they only gave change in Sacagawea golden dollars. So if I only had a 20 and the toll was $3, I would get 17 Sacagawea golden dollars. Yeah, that's why it was so stuck in my head.
What kind of craziness is that?
Yeah.
What? How? Why? Okay, that's bizarre to me. That's crazy. That's also super cool. I'd be like, it's like when you go to Chuck E. Cheese and all the tokens spit out because they're gold. It's like my head is just gonna go like, I won the big one. You know, it's like 17 little gold coins coming out. That's crazy. Yeah, no, head to our Facebook group. Tell us who you would pick. Don't pick Susan B. Anthony or Sacagawea or any of the 5. Or if you agree or disagree, you can go one way or the other.
We just want to hear your opinions because this has been such a hotly debated topic. I mean, if you go to Twitter or Reddit or any of those places where people love to argue and talk about the new quarters, people are fired up. So we would love to hear your opinion. And I mean, I think progress is progress, and I'm happy to see it. I'll probably gift them to the grandkids or my daughters, just, you know, historical moment. Mm-hmm. But thank you guys for joining us again. We always love hanging out with you and chatting every week. Thank you guys for coming back every week.
Absolutely.
And you're not sick of us yet, which is nice. After 30 some episodes.
I know. I love it. This is like our weekly get together. I really appreciate it.
So we will be back next week with a new topic, and thank you guys again, and see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. Don't forget to bookmark our site. She's a fullonmonet.com. and subscribe to our newsletter. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you're enjoying this podcast, it helps us a lot if you can follow, rate, and review. See y'all next week.